I will now jump into the introduction to PuMapy. So I want to thank everybody again that has called in today. The first part, Joseph has gone through the GUI, and that is running the C++ part of PuMA mainly, and calling some of the PuMapy functions mostly for rendering. In this section, I'm going to focus on the Python scripting part that we've added recently, and this is called PuMapy. So this is the content of the next sections that I'm going to discuss. So I'll start with just some brief setup instructions, and then I'll jump into some of the domain manipulation in Python. And then following this, there will be a section about material generation. And especially here, I will talk about an integration that we've been working on between the PuMA software and TechGen. And I know that there is the main developer of TechGen is currently in the audience, or she was in the audience a few minutes ago at least. So you can also ask her questions in case you want to know more about the software. And then finally, I'll dive into the material properties, some of the more advanced features that we've been working on recently. So without further ado, I'll start with the first video on the Conda environment setup. So let me pull that up. But first, I just want to notice again, these are the links to the PuMA software and the documentation and tutorials. Here we have basically a schematic of the software architecture. And just as reference to you, we've recently published an update to our paper on Software X. So in there, we talk more in detail about the new capabilities of the software. And also, like, we've made it quite user-friendly using both conda install and pip install. And finally, we've also, these are some of the figures from that paper that show the use of the GUI, similarly to how Joseph has just showed you. So I'm gonna now jump into the conda setup, and I will play this. Hopefully you can all hear it nicely. So following up from our first video, now I'm gonna show you how to set up PuMA inside Pycharm and how to start using it and run the tutorials. So I assume that you've already installed PuMA inside its own environment. So the way to do that, I am going to just open Pycharm. So this is how it's going to look like the first time that you install it. And then you're going to go into new project. Then inside, I'm just going to create a new project inside my downloads, and I call it PuMA Workshop. And then I'll select the previously configured interpreters in the 3 dots. I'll go inside conda environment. And then from this drop-down list, if it's not showing the PuMA tutorial environment that we set up, you need to again click on the 3 dots. And so that takes you to, you need to basically navigate inside your Anaconda folder, wherever that is installed. And then click inside, check inside the environment, and there should be the name of the environment that you created. So here's the PuMA tutorial. Then I go inside the bin and scroll down to whatever Python file, it doesn't matter which one, you click that one. So the IDE is now finding the conda environment, so we are ready to create this new project. So now that we have created this new project, a main.py is automatically created for you. So the way that you would basically get started with linking PuMapy and start using it, you would just say import PuMapy as PuMA, and then let's just go grab, for example, inside the documentation, I'll just go to the first function just as an example, and I'll grab the example that is listed here. I'll paste it in here and just edit this that we don't need. And so at this point, I'm going to right click on main.py and click run. So at this point, the project is probably still linking against the conda environment. But as you can see here, Okay, so the first time it has just run a very simple like example data that we have inside PuMA, and then it has imported it and it has just applied some filtering, which was just the example that I grabbed at random. So the one thing to notice is that the compare slices in this case, it's opening just a figure. If you want the figure to be dynamic, then you need to go inside the Pycharm preferences and just type scientific in here and uncheck the show plots in tool window. In that case, it's basically not gonna put it inside the side view, but it's gonna open up a window as you will see. And now if you just scroll using the wheel, then it's gonna basically scroll through the material, and on in this case I'm just showing that on the left we have our original image, and on the right is the filtered one. The filter specifically is called closing, which basically closes the gaps, but it's not important, it's just as an example. So that's how you would set up a Pycharm project. So at this point, something else that we can run, and I'm gonna show you how, is that now we have basically our puma-dev, which is just a git clone of the whole source code repository, and then this is the small project that we've just created. And so something that you might want to do is run the PumaPy tutorial or the PuMA tutorial. We have both a C++ and a Python part. So there are several ways that you can do that. One way is to, if you go actually inside the tutorial, and in here there is a link to run the Jupyter tutorial online. So if I click on this one, it's gonna open up a Colab Jupyter notebook, which is grabbed directly from the Git repository. So this is basically, if you go here on the table of contents, you can see all the sections, all the tutorials that we've written for the different functions for PuMA, for PumaPy on top, and for the C++ PuMA on the bottom. So that's a very nice resource where you can just copy and paste code. So here you can basically just press play on any of these tutorial of these cells, and then you're gonna need to say run anyway, and then this is gonna basically, it's gonna complain the first time because it's saying, oh, PumaPy is not installed, and this is just because I haven't run this first cell, which is where we actually install the Puma and PumaPy package inside Colab. So this is one way, and this is gonna take maybe a couple of minutes to install. The other way that we can run the tutorial is by, if I go back to the GitHub, here we can basically, it's saying that we need to activate the environment. So I will just say conda activate puma_tutorial, which is the name that we gave to the conda environment. And then in order to have Jupyter and Jupyter Lab, we need to run this other command which installs them from conda forge. So this is gonna run for, again, another couple of minutes, and then after this we can just open up the same tutorial that was running online on Colab locally using your computer as a server, basically. The installation is now completed, and at this point we can cd inside the PuMA dev, which is where the tutorial is stored. And so in here we can just say Jupyter Lab, and then I like to put an ampersand just because I want to keep using this terminal. So this is gonna open up a new tab in your browser, and so at this point we're just in the launcher page. We're gonna have to go inside the folders here, and then click on the puma_tutorial Jupyter notebook. Once this opens up, since we have already installed everything, this is just the first part for the installation is only for Colab. So at this point, we just need to go run and import all the dependencies that we need, especially like pumapy. And then at this point, we can run any of these sections that you can go scroll through in here. So for example, just to give you a very brief example, we can go and generate the random sphere domain, and then we can go and render it by selecting this, by running this cell. And as you can see, here's our spheres rendered in 3D. So this is how to run the Jupyter notebook either locally or online on Colab. So the next section is only dedicated to people that want to do actual development on Puma and change the source code. So for a normal user, just ignore this part of the tutorial. But I wanted to mention it because it's important for developers. So if you go and inside your Pycharm project, and you basically click command and then click on top of the pumapy package that you're importing, here on top you can see that basically this is referencing the pumapy package that is installed inside the Conda environment. As you can see, Puma tutorial is the name of the environment we gave, and it's all the way down in depth inside the site packages pumapy. So this is not ideal because in theory we would like to use the Puma dev source code that we've just git cloned inside our downloads. So in order to do that, what you need to do is you can go inside the terminal here on the bottom, and then you can go cd inside the puma-dev, and then in here you're gonna say pip install -e dot. So -e basically means edit. So basically what this command is gonna do is that it's gonna go inside this very in-depth folder and uninstall the pumapy package that we have installed through the conda install command, and instead it's gonna basically reference this pumapy to the local source code that we have git cloned. So if this time we command click on the pumapy, as you can see, it's now referencing the downloads puma dev that we have. So every time that we now make a change to this local code, it's gonna basically be directly run by whatever Python script we're running. So just to give you a very quick demonstration, we can put, for example, a print statement and say hello. And so whenever we now from the main.py run the import pumapy, it's gonna say hello to us. So that's what I wanted to show for developers. This concludes this section about the setup of a Python project in Pycharm, and now we're gonna go and dig through the functions that pumapy has. Okay, so that concludes, as you heard, like about the Conda setup, especially in Pycharm. And if anyone has any questions, like again, feel free to shout out. And I now have the chat on other computers, so I can monitor and respond on that. If there are no questions and everybody is following, I'll jump into the data import, generation, image manipulation, and visualization inside pumapy.